Welcome to the Beat the Banks podcast. I'm Kyle Fuller, and I'm in the studio today with David Zapata. And today we're going to be having a conversation about our Factum Wealth Scorecard and how that tool has just been incredibly valuable to not only you and I, but also our client base, other colleagues we work with, and how that directly correlates to our wealth pyramid, which if people have been on our courses online or come to one of our wealth seminars, you've seen this framework that we have now that helps guide our clients, our families, our agents through a very particular process, building the right type of wealth foundation, and then eventually moving into the wealth acceleration. So let's talk about this, David.
Yeah, this is an exciting conversation. Thank you for having me today. This is a tool that I think is probably one of those things that you can hold in your hands as an expression of our beliefs. We all the time talk about, hey, one of the things we love the most about our work is that we cause people to think. We don't tell anyone what to do. We don't tell right or wrong. We use frameworks like common and uncommon just to be observationally aware of what's around us so we can decide what to do. And when I look at this spreadsheet, when I look at this tool, I think about that as an expression of our values, beliefs, culture, and our expertise, right? How can we have tools available for our clients, for ourselves, where we can cause them to think and have thoughtful conversations to deepen their understanding of some of the things we think are critical for their relationship with money. So that's when I see that, it brings a smile to my face because I know the effect of it is going to be beyond what you and I can see. It's going to be conversations at a dinner table in between spouses. It's going to be clear understanding between business partners about their objectives for next year or next decade. It's going to be how parents teach children some concepts about money. And that, again, gives me goosebumps to think that from our intentional work on helping people to think, there will be effects beyond what we can see.
I think one of the reasons that's so powerful is I feel like, especially right now, there's a whole lot of just following in the financial space. There's a lot of noise and people just kind of follow. And there's a lot of big gurus out there that I would say they're teaching people how to or what to think, not how to think. And this is where we really want to separate ourselves. And it's why we tell people we're not salesmen. We'll not sell you whole life for IBC. We'll educate you. We'll cause you to think. And when you understand this and you know it's right for you, you can make the purchase and you can buy it. And that's what has kept our renewal rate in our book of business so high with thousands of policies here at Factum. It's because our clients understand it because they can think about it. And when they understand it and you want to do it, that's a way different relationship than, well, so-and-so told me to buy this. I bought it. I didn't understand it. And then, we kind of know how that story goes. And so I think in a time where a lot of people are really not thinking, especially about their finances, their financial journey, this pyramid framework we have, this tool has been so valuable to help unlock a lot of those ideas inside their heads. But more importantly, it's provided the roadmap to do it.
Yes.
So earlier you said a statement because we have this wealth scorecard that goes up to right now 115 questions are on here. And the goal is to not only have an understanding of what those 115 questions are, which we'll get to some of those questions in a second, but also, and more importantly, implement all of these items.
Yes.
And when you have done that, you're going to be in a financial position where I'm going to say you're going to have a lot of peace, no anxiety, no noise, just a lot of confidence, a lot of conviction that what you have is so set. You can invest, you can spend, you can save in peace, knowing you have this entire framework built that's just protecting you and allowing you to go further than what you've ever thought imaginable.
Yeah, and let's paint a picture for those who haven't seen any of our frameworks. So you mentioned earlier the wealth pyramid. You can imagine a triangle on a page in a pyramid where we lay out what we think are foundational pieces and acceleration pieces to wealth. And that may include financial education, financial awareness, your saving strategy, etc., all the way to what we call freedom in our framework of 5 areas of life, where we have abundance in all those areas, and that's living the ideal life. Every single one of those sections is represented in this scorecard in a matter of questions that are thoughtful, deep, specific. And when you see the questions, the tool allows you to score yourself in 2 categories. How much do you understand, or do you understand, yes or no, the question, right? And the second part is, have you implemented what the question is asking you about? And the reason this is important, this comes from a statement that we hear from one of our mentors. It's harsh, but I think the more I think about it, the more I embrace it. Education is for losers, implementations is for winners. And we don't dismiss the value of education, of course not. You have to go and understand really so you can think. But the objective at the end of the day is that you take action, that you move into a place where these things are now part of your relationship with money, part of your life, whether it is your estate planning or a tax strategy, regardless of what it is. The idea is that you go and close the no do gap. A lot of people read a lot of books. I'm the first one to raise my hand. I have so many books, more than I've been able to read. But my level of implementation is accelerating because now we are in a place where we are adopting all these tools, all these frameworks, and we're surrounding ourselves with people that are professionals at taking action. And that starts manifesting in results of in terms of growth.
Yeah.
Growth.
And one thing I want to touch on that you just said that I think is so important, David, is a lot of times people say, oh, you guys are like financial advisors. And I'm quick to tell people, absolutely not. Like, we're not managing anyone's money. We don't want that role. Where we serve, I think, and we're some of the best, I would argue, is at the foundational piece of this wealth building journey. So financial education, financial awareness, and a saving strategy that's built into the infinite banking concept. Those three things are what you and I would put at the base of anyone's financial journey. Got to start with education, the right type of awareness, and then built into a saving strategy. And so when we talk about that, we recently had a conversation where we were saying the wider, broader, deeper that foundation is, what does that allow a person to do in the future?
Yeah. Lately I've been putting this in terms of an actual physical constructing a physical pyramid, because it is intuitive.
Yeah.
If you want to have a very tall triangle pyramid figure, by the way, it's the strongest shape geometrically in space, by the way.
I'm not doubting you.
But you would think that a stronger, deeper, longer base allows you to go higher in altitude and as you build that pyramid because you have a stronger foundation. And when I say this to people in physical terms, it intuitively makes sense. But when I reflect it back to how the average American or themselves are building their relationship with money, the simple fact that we live in a world where Wall Street wants us to be confused in the definitions between savings and investing. And we're trying to build this tall, financial wealth pyramid with a lot on top, a lot of investments and very little foundation, very little understanding, very poor behaviors, inadequate behaviors to be aware of our financials on a monthly basis, for example. And more importantly, our focus, very weak saving strategies in very weak savings environments. You say this all the time. Most Americans, unfortunately, are a recession away, a sickness away, an accident away from really having catastrophic effects on their financial life.
Yeah, and it's what makes this framework so compelling, and it's what has attracted a lot of large collaborations for us because of what we teach and how we teach it. Fundamentally, Americans all have the same problem. It's a savings problem. But I think back to when I was a 16-year-old kid, and I was very lucky that my grandfather set me up with a Roth IRA early, and his whole point was, save now, save early. It really was an investing conversation. It wasn't a savings, right? It was invest into this Roth. And, if you do it early on, it'll grow tax-free and you can retire early. Well, that sounded wonderful to a 16-year-old kid. The problem was no one taught me the basics of wealth building to begin with. They threw me right into the investing world. And what happens when we get thrown into the investing world and I was investing automatically into a Roth IRA that I didn't know and understand? 2008 rolls around, I get obliterated. 40% of that value's gone, just disappeared. And when I started asking questions, the only responses I was getting back was, well, don't worry, you're young. Like you have time to recover. And I was like, well, who the heck was watching this thing? I didn't know anything about it. So that's when I really started pumping the brakes. And luckily I came across some other good books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, that helped lay a proper foundation for how to think about money, how much to be saving. And from there, that led into becoming your own banker, which was really where to save that money and how to start thinking like a banker. And so most Americans, I would argue, they go to the top of the pyramid. They go right into automatically investing when we should be automatically saving and then investing very intentionally, only based off the criteria that one would bless our lives in the way we want it to be blessed, but also two, investing in assets that we actually know and understand. If I had that framework when I was 16, I would have not lost any of that money because I would have said, I don't understand the fee structure. I'm not okay with the level of risk. I'm not okay with, what it's invested in. I'm going to move my money into something I'm more passionate about. And unfortunately, that's the exact opposite of what we hear from banks and Wall Street. I just believe those are two places that don't really want more Americans thinking, because once you start thinking, I think you start understanding there's a reason they don't want us to know a lot of the stuff that we would teach, because it takes a lot of dollars away from them.
I love what you just said there. And, it connects perfectly with the intention for this scorecard, right? Basically, you realize that you needed to bring in-house, in your control, your relationship with money to make decisions intentionally about how you had that relationship. And the point of this scorecard is exactly that, is to cause people to think. And I'm going to jump in here because I think that we should share a couple of examples to illustrate this to people. And like you were mentioning, for us, the three key areas that we focus our work on, although we recognize that there's much more to the process of wealth building and other professionals to bring along, by the way. When we talk about financial education and financial awareness, one of the questions that I've loved to share with clients is this: have you identified and committed a total amount of dollars that you will invest in your number one asset each year? When I ask that people, number one, it doesn't sound like a financial education conversation to them initially. Not many people are asking you that. I don't know if a lot of people are asking this, but you and I talk about this all the time. How much money did we spend in 2023 in our personal growth, in our education? And then how are we going to scale that number for 2024? We're very intentional about that. We already have a calendar full of things that we are have already paid for and invested on. So asking questions like this, or do you understand what that means? And then have you implemented? Move people into action, into taking their financial education very seriously, where you and I are very passionate about.
Yeah, I think it's, it just goes back to the values and the community we're building here, because we don't want to be that bottleneck for our clients. But the reality is, and this is why I would say we're not financial advisors, we've built a conversation here that has recruited a team, and money is a team game. Too many people are playing it solo. It's got to be played with a team. And, why would people want to work with you or I? Well, because we're experts on savings and infinite banking. We're not going to claim to be experts with investing. And that always makes me nervous when I meet someone that says, yeah, I can do your taxes. I can help you buy real estate. I can manage your properties. That's usually someone I don't want to be in business with. They're a jack of all trades. I want the experts. And so you got to have the right estate planning team, savings team, investing team, debt strategy, profit management, cash flow management. I mean, there's a whole lot there that I don't think people are fully recognizing. But getting the awareness down by asking yourself questions like this has been so effective for not only us, but all of our clients, our community, because it goes back to what you started this conversation with. It allows them to think about what's going on. And when they can think, then that relationship gets strengthened, because then they come to you or I and they say, okay, this is what I know. This is what I want to do. I need your help in achieving that. That conversation is so different than, I don't know what I'm doing, David. I need you to manage my money. And I need you to tell me that in 30 years, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We don't treat any other relationship like that in our life. I've heard you talk about that a lot. You're not going to divert the relationship with your kids to someone else. I need you to raise them for me, right? Why would we do that with our money or something that's so vital in that 5 areas of life? The financial piece is extremely vital to fund the other area. It's the only thing that's funding the other areas of life. So why would we distance ourselves from that relationship? Instead of coming into that conversation and saying, I've got some work to do. If my score is 0, you said that's the luckiest person in the room, because you now have a clean slate to start learning this early on. Whereas a lot of people we're meeting with and showing them this Wealth Scorecard are 40, 50, 60 years old. And they're saying, had I had this 20, 30 years ago, it's hard to calculate some of that lost opportunity cost.
Yeah. And just to touch on a couple of things you said there, it's amazing to me, we forget we only get a chance at one life. I don't want to outsource any of it, Kyle. I want to have my relationships today and every day, because I don't know how long they're going to be here. That's a reality we all face. And money is one of those relationships with it's not even about winning or losing. It's about the fact that if I get to create abundance over the next however many years, part of the joy isn't remembering the journey of how I built that for my
Yeah.
kids, my family, with the people I wanted to work with the clients I wanted to work with. So I don't outsource that. And that's a values based conversation. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Some people may want to do that. I knew that wasn't right for me. And it drew me so much that I decided to professionally change my career to be part of that journey for others, to help people think, don't outsource this. Actually, get full contact with it, because it's going to enrich your life beyond the financial part, beyond what shows up in a financial statement. And then to your other point is like this also can be something that and our team has discussed this at length. Like, is it going to be intimidating for people to go over 115 questions where they may not understand 50, 60, 70, 80% of it? And I shift that mindset from a growth mindset, from a learner perspective. I'm a live learner like you are. And I tell people, if you score a 0 in understanding or implementation in the entire scorecard, you're the luckiest person in the room.
Yeah.
Because regardless if you're 15 or 60, you, my friend, just found out a map to the treasure. And a lot of people, a lot of examples of success, we've curated this from very high level places.
Oh yeah.
Masterminds, places where you and I have paid thousands of dollars to just have a seat and listen to very smart people, very successful people talk about how they've built protection and acceleration in their wealth. And I think when you find the treasure to a map that you don't know, you're lucky, because now it's a matter of deciding, am I willing to do the work to become the person capable of understanding and implementing these things? And when you decide that, the answer is yes, you are capable.
Absolutely.
Period. There's no stopping you. So to me, this is a conversation about empowering, which is one of our values too. It's about helping people realize they are a decision away from a completely different financial life.
And it's, going back to just the cost of acquisition, like when people see this, they get very excited because, like you said, this is the roadmap to the treasure. If more of us had this earlier, and the cost of acquisition has been quite high in getting this into one place, especially digital. I think that was one of the biggest enhances that we made to this, is taking it from a physical piece of paper, which is good to do at a seminar if you're sitting right there. But as soon as you take it home, that thing goes in the drawer. It sits on your desk for a few weeks before you toss it. Having a digital version that, as you're answering yes or no to the questions, it's calculating a total. And then there's a nice visual that you built into this as well, that it's been, extremely popular by everyone that has this, because it gives you a snapshot. And in 15 seconds, I could see exactly where I'm weak and exactly where I'm strong in my wealth building game. Having that type of clarity has been game changing for me. And there's 115 questions on here. One of the questions on the property and casualty insurance side, we got from an individual who lost $300,000 on a claim on one of his rental properties. And the reason he did, because he wasn't reviewing certain things with his insurance guy on a regular basis. So there's one question in one segment here that was a $300,000 mistake for one of the guys that we got that particular piece from, right? So you think about all the knowledge and experience and understanding that has been built and curated into this one digital asset right here. It truly is a roadmap to the treasure, a gold mine, if you will. And I think fundamentally people are looking for this, right? They go to a seminar and they say, I don't even know anything about insurance. Well, we have an entire scorecard right here that'll help you with that. Well, what about estate planning? It's all right here. All the questions that you would need to take to a professional in your life, all you have to do is take this scorecard, go meet with your CPA, your tax strategist, your property and casualty insurance guy, ask them these questions and make sure that you start to understand them and you've implemented them. It's literally that easy. You don't have to do this on your own. You just have to have the right team in place.
Yeah. This also makes me think about a couple of conversations with clients over the last week of the year. I had a couple talking to me about this. So the process that we have for those listening, we will send you a copy of the scorecard. And the only expectation we have is this: please score yourself, name it with your name, send it back to me. I'll store it for you. In a year, whenever we do an annual review, for example, we'll go and revisit the scores, because what we also want is an objective way to measure growth. Our promise, right, is that in the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to support you through our education, through our guidance through sharing our examples in accelerating what you thought it would take you 30 years. Maybe it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to implement and accelerate significantly a successful relationship with money. Think about how many people are bringing that type of promise to your life. Because to me, it's very few.
Oh, yeah.
Very few. So objectively, you can say, okay, I scored 45 today in my no, but my goal is next year, I want to take that to 60, to 70, because I'm going to focus, for example, on my estate planning. I'm going to meet several attorneys, interview them, find the right fit. And once I find the right fit, I'm going to create a estate plan for my family. I'm going to have that level of intentional growth is what actually creates progress in a short amount of time than most people think.
Yeah.
But in this case, with this couple, they were bringing up some of the questions and some of the areas for me. And they were saying, well, I don't think an umbrella policy applies to us yet. And I thought that was a really insightful thing, because it made me think, well, how valuable is it that maybe some of these things do not apply to you where you are in the journey now? Mm-hmm. But how important is to learn them now at the beginning as you grow into the person that is going to need those things? You understand them well enough. You see examples of success on how to implement them properly. How do you think you're going to fare at the end when you get to that point when you need that? And how strong and confident you're going to feel. Sometimes learning, again, early on and being the early adopter is a very valuable thing, because it puts you in a position to learn from the mistakes from others and also execute from a place of strength and confidence. So that was one thing that was very valuable to me, as the perspective over time. As we grow into other stages of life, we become more prepared. And the other part of it was humbleness and humility. So I had a big investor kind of dismiss this. I was like, oh yeah, I know a lot of these things. I have a team in place, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking about some of the questions. And I just wanted to put in front of him, the mindset that you have right now is an arrival syndrome mindset. And you need to continue to learn so you can stay on your feet and continue to grow. And I asked him one of the questions. I love question 1.05 from the savings strategy, Kyle. Have you intentionally selected a savings environment which you have high confidence in the solvency, liquidity, and access to your money? I ask this question often because in the real economy last year, we had banks fail because of the misunderstanding that we have in the difference between solvency, liquidity, and access. And when I asked that question of the client, they really couldn't tell me the difference between those three things. And more importantly, they didn't understand what those three things meant for their financial life and their business. So if you hear me ask that and you don't know what that means exactly or what it means to you, there's another opportunity again to go and do some understanding, some education, and then implementation. How can I strengthen my solvency of my balance sheet? How can I improve my liquidity? And how can I start guaranteeing access to money? We're asking that question because we see this as a serious problem in American businesses and families and households. We're not putting that question in there at random. So this is, again, a gift from putting our minds together with other places where we've learned this from very successful people to bring value to you. That's the only intention of it.
And we know it's only going to get better.
Yes.
Right? Because we do have some other brilliant minds that are very excited about this digital version we've created and are now going to be enhancing it.
Yeah.
I think most likely in the investment part, the wealth acceleration point, I think we've got the foundational piece. It's somewhat simple. Like there are key elements you have to have at the foundational point of your wealth building journey. But above that, it becomes so infinite. What will you invest in? A million things you could invest in.
Yeah.
But the foundation is pretty set. It's got to be education, awareness, savings, a debt strategy, estate planning, taxes, property and casualty insurance, life insurance. There are certain things in there you have to have. Mm-hmm. It's just non-negotiable. And so having the roadmap and the framework to come through this has just been, so for my brother and I, we have quarterly family banking meetings with all of our family. Well, this scorecard has been the topic of our conversation for almost the last year on repeat, just to get the foundation right with the family. And it's been so good for us to have a model and a system that we can just give to them. Instead of having to explain and go through all of this individually, everyone can do it on their own. We can see what they understand, what they don't, and then get them paired up with the right professional. That has been such a time saver for our family in bringing us closer together, especially around the understanding of, the saving strategy and infinite banking. So one of our goals that we wanted our family to leave from our family banking meetings is a deeper, like you said, understanding of whole life insurance and the benefits. So many Americans with a lot of certainty tell you how terrible whole life is and all the things wrong with it. But very few people, if you ask them, well, what do you know about the benefits of whole life? They would be hard pressed to tell you even a few. Yeah. And that thing is packed full of benefits if you know how to look at it. So our first question on our infinite banking scorecard section is, are you using whole life insurance as your primary savings and banking environment? Right there, I would say 95% of Americans or more would answer no to understanding that, and definitely no to implementing it, because most Americans think whole life is an investment. Yeah. Which is why people get so confused. So this one question right there is going to help people stay in the right framework to then go through and actually understand that whole life is not an investment, which is the second question on this scorecard. You understand that, right? I need you to tell me, David, that you understand whole life is not an investment. And from there, we're going to go into the guaranteed elements of this asset. Because I think once people understand this is the only asset with contractual guarantees that for you and I go out 121 years, and that is guaranteed liquidity, constant compounding, the monthly cash value growth, the death benefit there, the privacy. Once you understand all those benefits and you know it's attached to a guaranteed asset with a track record that nobody can fully comprehend, because no one has a success track record like these big mutual insurance companies, that's when you start to get really excited about this asset. And that has been the goal for my brother and I, to bring this amount of value to our family, because we keep money close in our family now, right? Our family is the priority. And from there, it's allowed us to just grow our influence to help more people. We have a lot of families that we grew up with that are now asking about what we're doing, because they're seeing the changes. Yeah. The neighbor, I was just at my parents, for Christmas, and my dad said, hey, the neighbor across the street was asking, he said, he's been watching us meet, he's been doing this stuff. He wants to know about whole life and what we're doing with it as a family. Like, isn't that cool? There's no sales there. It's a transformation. It's a progression. We're growing as a family. And this scorecard has provided us the roadmap for everyone to get better on their own. And that's what we really want, right? We want to empower them. We don't want to do this for them and enable them. We have to empower them, especially if we want to take wealth multi-generational. Yeah.
You just make me think of a couple things there. I think of Nelson talking about misclassification. That idea comes so much around me, because I constantly ask myself that, am I thinking in a certain way about something that is actually not what it is that I think it is? It's such a troubling question, right? Like, could my perception, could my perspective be inaccurate because I'm misclassifying what this is? And I think we all could do ourselves a favor by constantly reevaluating our thinking and having the humility to know that there's more. I think about Graham Bell thinking that his telephone idea was the best one. He would have lost his mind looking at an iPhone, right? He would have probably just lost his mind.
Even an Android.
Right. And so I think of Nelson through this entire framework of how to help people think and take his message further. The second thing I think about is, another important thing you mentioned there, and this happened to me early on in my journey, to be honest with you. You read the book, you watch some videos, and then you think you understand it. And then you go to the quiet of your home, and then your neighbor or your cousin or your uncle asks you a question you don't know and understand. And it makes you doubt, right? And it makes you say, oh my God, did they convince me of something that's not correct? Is this the wrong thing? And I think it's very natural that as you develop understanding and questions come up, you experience doubt. And the point of this is to build confidence, not because David said or told me that this is the right thing for me as a savings environment. We're actually putting in front of you enough evidence for you to go and build your understanding, implement, and then as you gain experience, build confidence and conviction that this perhaps is the best savings environment for your family and your business. I can tell you at this point of the journey, I was joking with Wade, one of our partners, the other day, and I was actually thanking him, because one of the gifts that I get from Wade is that, and is rare, intellectual companionship. Somebody that you can go and have a very deep conversation for 45 minutes about this most specific question that most people would say, you're going into the weeds, you're losing your time, you're wasting your time. But it's in those moments that I develop more and more confidence about what we're doing. And I was joking with him saying, like, I could have somebody like Dave Ramsey or somebody that maybe speaks poorly about whole life right here in front of me, telling me everything they think about. And they could not probably change my mind at this point because I know what my policies did from November to December.
Yeah.
And I know the liquidity and the solvency and the strength of that savings environment. And I understand the privacy of it. And I understand how it's going to create multi-generational wealth for my kids. And I understand how, as a savings environment, is probably unrivaled by any other available option I have in the commercial banking space. So that you hear from me is nothing other than conviction from a place of understanding, of experience, which is what we're trying to share with clients as they go in this 2 to 3 to 5 year journey. They experience what this is, what it's doing for your family, what it's doing for your family, and then others start seeing. And as questions come, you get more and more clear. The conviction is going to increase, and you're going to realize that we're only applying the same principles that our great grandparents used at the turn of the previous century to save and protect their financial life.
Yeah, this one tool that we have here at Factum, David, has been so revolutionary for it. And that's when you know it's good, is when you want to use it. Because as we're sitting here talking and we're reviewing some of these questions, I'm looking at a few of them, and they're so thoughtful, they're so thought out. There's so much time and cost of acquisition into this that it gets me so excited to get this into more hands of more people, because I know when they go through it, it's going to cause them to think this is not a sales tool, right? Just like Nelson's book. And you touched on behaviors earlier on. This tool will help you create and keep the right behaviors intact. And I think the money game is won really when you have better behaviors and habits than other people. It's a time and consistency game. And so it's one of the reasons why I love becoming your own banker. And, you'll hear, online, is IBC a scam? Whatever people are talking, noise, whatever. And that book and this concept is not a scam because the first third of that book has nothing to do with strategy, illustrations, numbers. It's all on human behavior. And it's a savings conversation. That's how you know that book is legitimate. It's if you change your savings habits, you're already better by default. I mean, I don't hear too many financial books that are written that they're addressing that at such a level and saying, if you can't do that, like, please don't even read forward. Like, this is not for you. And we'd take the same approach. And it's what I love about this digital wealth scorecard too, is if you go through this, you will have to change your habits if you want to do and go where most people want to go. And that's a good thing. The part that makes this very easy for you is you have the exact roadmap with questions that you can bring to professionals in your life to build and strengthen those relationships. That's what this is really doing, is saving people a ton of time without having to go research everything and then come back to their professionals. You just take the infinite banking section here, you bring it to someone like David or Joe or Teresa, and you say, I need to understand these 17 points. Help me do this. Wonderful. If you bring, the P&C section, there's multiple sections on there. If you bring those 10, 12, 13 questions to your P&C guy, he'll know that answer for sure. He might not have a system to give to you like this to help you understand, but if you go there and ask him, they will know those questions, and you need to know them too.
And when you work with other professionals, you need to be dangerous enough to also set a strategy, right? The strategy just is not supposed just to come out of them, right? Like, at least from my perspective, I want to sit in front of my tax professional and ask questions that have a creative tone to it. I want to ask them, hey, how can we use cost segregation? How could we pay my kids? How can we structure our entities to be more efficient, right? To create more value. Some of these questions will be just as impactful for you to deepen the relationship you have with those professionals already in your team to create more value, period. And they, again, come from people that have gone through a lot of mistakes, a lot of growth, probably much wealthier than us, right? And they've been kind enough to share those lessons for us to think through how do we increase the rate of growth that we have in our process. So one last thing I was going to bring up to you here is this: as you go through these questions, we are also, by the way, this is at no cost sent to people in our network. We're not using this to sell anything, like you were saying. This is us trying to express more value that we receive every time we create a client relationship. But another part of the framework that's embedded here is what you were talking about, habits. So just as we encourage people to save, to be aware of their financial statements and have a regular contact with their financial awareness and their money, we are also teaching principles of good behaviors. For example, in the debt strategies, we talk about the leverage ratios. How clear are you about how much would you want to be borrowing from your savings environment and what that limit should be? Is your family all on board that if you decide to only leverage up to 60, 70, 80%, is everyone aware that that's what you're going to do to protect and have some reserves as well, your family? Like, some of these things are not talked in the financial world, right? And we need to start creating some rules that we as a family, as business owners, define for ourselves and that we commit to, so we can execute in the times where everything is good, but also in the times where things are difficult, and you need to stay true to those rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, David, I want to just end with a couple of things. I was guilty of trying to pawn more of this off to other professionals. I believed in the concept of having a team of professionals.
Yes.
And I'll just give you an example. So the taxes one for me, I try to push that so far out of my wheelhouse. No, I got a good CPA, a good bookkeeper, good tax strategist. They'll handle it for me. Until I went and heard one of our current mentors talk about taxes, and he said, I used to have this philosophy where I didn't want to deal with the taxes, so I tried to defer it out. And he said it was a huge mistake because they're not as close to our businesses or our lives as we are. And he said, I eventually just started reading a couple books, and guess what I found out about taxes? It's actually not that complicated.
Yes.
Once we had a little bit of time and education, right, financial education, some awareness of how taxes work, the strategy manifests itself. Now he knows what to do. He can talk to his tax strategist and formulate a plan based off what's happening. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, because that was me. Before I started reading some books on taxes, having some quarterly meetings with my CPA and tax strategist to formulate stuff. And once you get into it, it's really not that complex. There's not that much to it. You don't need to know all the tax code. That's their job, but we have to know enough, like you said, to be dangerous. And so take that through every one of these sections, give that 3 to 5 years. I'm going to say on average, we have some people who attack this and do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that will do it in 3 to 5 years. It's on whatever time frame you want it to be on. And David, if I were to ask you, like, what do most people, if we took most Americans right now, what do you think they're feeling financially in their life? I would probably say anxiety. If you were to ask someone, like, how are you feeling about your financial situation? If you gave them this scorecard and they looked at this and they said, this is what I need to be doing, I bet you most Americans would say they're feeling anxious about their finances in some way.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Uncertainty was the word that popped in my mind when you said that. And you know what's funny too? When you ask that question of an American today, they're going to think about now and in 6 months. And then they're also going to think when I'm 65. Those are the two time frames they think about. Nobody's thinking in terms of, like, how do I keep their prosperity growing to live more abundantly now, 6 months, a year, and in a continuum.
Yeah.
Right. So when the feeling is anxiety, uncertainty, some of the things we've talked about, I think the only answer is to take the opposite of that and bring it into your relationship with money. How can you eliminate that anxiety and get a feeling of ease, of calmness, of certainty? And I think, again, I go back to our framework. I sound like a broken record at this point, but how simple it would be to think, I need to educate myself better. I need to understand what's really happening. I need to stop outsourcing this thing, and I need to get full contact with it. I need to start becoming very aware and very honest. What is my financial statement saying? What is my income and expenses? What is my asset, liability, and balance sheet look like in a monthly basis? And then, am I actually keeping a portion of everything I earn to the degree that I want to? Are my savings 10 to 30% of what I want to, or is it the common less than 5%?
Yeah.
You know what the print in November was for the savings rate from the Fed? 4.1. 4.1. We're not improving this trend, Kyle.
Yeah.
We're not improving this trend. And is a reality that most people face. And the only way out is to get intentional, to get into it, to go do the work. It's not easy.
Yeah.
to create a foundation and then go from there. Surround yourself with other people that want to grow. All of us are capable once we decide we're willing to do the work.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And so if most Americans are feeling uncertainty and anxiety, how do you think they'd feel after a few years of education, awareness, having a roadmap like this, and scoring maybe a 100 out of 115? How do you think those people are feeling after they're at that level?
Think about it. I mean, think about you and I.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to go too far out of this room, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen in 2024. You hear a lot of people speculate about a hard landing, about changes in the stock market, in the housing. I think about it from the perspective of, I'm grateful that I have a lot of certainty in my life about where my savings are, that I have enough float to overcome anything that happens on my business this year, that I actually am prepared to take advantage of some growth opportunities when they present themselves. But more importantly, I don't have any FOMO and I don't have any anxiety. I have peace of mind that I'm working in the right foundation to confront the future and to hopefully be smart enough to pull the trigger when an opportunity presents itself.
Absolutely. I'm hearing confidence and certainty, right? Like what this has done for us and what it will do for other people, and it is doing for other people, is it brings the financial certainty and the confidence into your life. Because when you know these things are all dialed in, you can go to bed sleeping at night knowing there's no insurance claim that's going to take me out. Mm-hmm. There's no stock market crash. There's no recession because the liquidity's there, the protection's in place, the estate plan is up and running. So, we're not going to have to deal with probate. Like the protection aspect is so high. What does that do to investors when all that anxiety comes down and you have just pure confidence and certainty in your life? Does that allow you to make better, sound investments with that type of mind frame?
Yeah, absolutely. You become a tactician. You now make decisions from a place of confidence. You're patient, right? That's one of the things we talk in our framework all the time. What's happening with the buffered cash days of liquidity for businesses?
Right.
We know the medium is 27 days. Why is that? A lot of it has to do with the fact that businesses don't like keeping a lot of cash laying around because it's not working for them. Mm-hmm. They need to move that money. But what that does also is create a position of liquidity that is not beneficial if they need protection or if they can take advantage of opportunity. And by implementing a simple step in addition to what they already do, which is strengthening their savings environment, their capitalization of the business, they can now start making decisions from a place where they have strength and peace of mind. Should I buy this new franchise? Should I buy this new piece of equipment? Maybe, maybe not. But they are now investing, not operating from a place of speculation and fear.
Anxiety, uncertainty.
Yeah.
And so we'll just wrap it up with this. When you can bring that amount of financial certainty and control into your life in the financial area, what does that do to all the other 4 areas of life? Your spiritual life, your personal, the family, in your occupation. It allows you to have that peace of mind, that clarity, that calmness. I think having the financials in order like this, not just a lot of cash flow coming in, but the understanding of the elements of the wealth game brings so much certainty that the other areas of your life drastically improve when that piece is just there. It's in control. You understand it. There's nothing that's going to bring you down. It allows you to live completely different. And that's something that we're all about, is creating that abundance in all areas of life.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode today. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can get the future podcast episodes that will be coming out. And if you want any of our free resources, go to our website, factumfinancial.com. You can view all the video resources we have and just reach out to us, contact us, and ask us about the Wealth Scorecard. If you're in our individual network, we'll send it right to you. And this will be a revolutionary tool that will definitely help you organize and control all the elements of your financial game now and in the future.